Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and I'm Batman. No, just kidding, I'm Justin. And I'm super excited to have you guys here because if you're new here, working through with our 8, 9, 10-figure entrepreneurs, we start to learn that there's a lot of things that we hear in this world of biohacking. And it actually drives me up the wall because biohacking by nature is thinking of like, we're breaking into something, we're getting into a vault that is not normally understood or normally known. But really what we're doing is we're using data to live more efficiently, to live more effectively, and ultimately to get the results that we're truly looking for. As entrepreneurs, we use data in our business all the time. And we don't call it business hacking. We call it good business. We call it smart business. We'd never invest in the stock market if we didn't know what the numbers were. We'd never buy real estate if we didn't know what the numbers were. So why do we do that with our bodies? And so instead of calling it biohacking, the title of this video, it's more such for clickbait, but what we're truly doing here is how do we live more intentionally? Using data to live intentionally to get the results we want. And so today, the 5 biggest things that we should be using as entrepreneurs and executives to ultimately get those results and to do it really sustainable. Number one thing we should be using in no particular order is we should be using a wearable. Now, I know there's a lot of wearables out there. You can go from Apple, you can go from Fitbit, you can go to Garmin, you can go to Polar, you can go to Whoop Band, you can go to Oura Ring. There's 2 that I really, really like, and it's specifically because of how accurate they are and how good they are at grabbing HRV and that type of metric. And that's the Whoop Band, and another is the Oura Ring. If you go to the link down below in the description, I've got some links down there so that you guys can go and grab these. And I actually cover the cost of your hardware. So be sure to go and click down there and use it. But I want to share as to why it's important to utilize these wearable devices, specifically because it's not just, oh, hey, because Justin said so, but rather because of the metrics that we see. So if we take a look here at our Whoop screen and we see the data that we're getting, you get 3 metrics. You get strain, recovery, and ultimately sleep. Now, a lot of studies have been done. You can go and look it up on YouTube, look accuracy of Whoop and sleep data. And I'm not a huge fan of the dispersion of the data down here when we take a look at slow wave, REM sleep, and light sleep. Now, that's typically when we're looking at the quality of sleep. If you go and look at my video on the complete guide to sleep, you'll know that I'm a real big fan of knowing how the sleep stages are, but this is just an estimate. And quite frankly, it's about 45 to 60% accurate depending on the night. So you're not really getting the quality that you need there. But the time in bed, even though we don't want to just go solely off time, is really, really important because the number one thing we can do is be consistent with our sleep. And so knowing this and being able to look at this is going to help us gauge this. But more importantly than just sleep is this HRV metric. And HRV stands for heart rate variability. And I've got another video, it's called The Complete Guide to HRV. You guys need to watch this. You need to follow up because HRV is the number one metric we can be using to make sure that we are optimizing our body and optimizing our system. If you take a look here, HRV stands for heart rate variability. And what it's looking at is the time intervals between our beats. And when we're using a wearable such as Whoop, such as Oura, we are able to really, really get key metrics on which one of the 8 controllables or which one of the metrics we're using are either working in a really positive way for us or working in a negative way. So when we have this feedback, we're able to make better informed decisions as to how we're living and how we're feeling. And when we do that, we can thus, again, influence the way that we're doing things at a much higher level. So it's all about the data in and the application, guys. Okay, so number two thing that we want to make sure that we are doing is using some form of testing metrics. And when I say some form of testing, I'm not talking about some 23andMe, but I'm talking about real deep intrinsic data on ourselves. And so with all of our clients, we always get them to do our DNA testing, which goes through our labs at Stanford. And we get this energy report. And through this energy report, we start to really take a look at nutrient metabolism. where is our body deficient in things? Where are we really kind of falling behind the 8 ball? And what can we start eating that's going to be, again, helping our body to optimize how we're showing up? Because remember, how our body metabolizes nutrients really leads to our energy levels, our ability to think, our ability to clear toxins from our body, our ability to have sustained sleep abilities. Because our body is one big system, 30,000 processes happening every second. And if certain systems start to shut down, we're not going to die, but other parts of the system need to start working in overload. So if we have, again, you take a look here, vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin D, folate, choline, and calcium, elevated levels of deficiency, we need to help supplement those with other forms of food. And what we are able to do from there is we're able to then create nutrition plans based upon that are specific to you. And this goes back to that biohacking. People are like, this is how we're biohacking. No, it's not biohacking. It's just living smarter, more effectively. Okay. Then we get to see food intolerances and sensitivities. Where is there going to be different issues within our body? Where is there going to be inflammation? Where are we going to see these things? And how can we work more effectively so that we don't have to have these issues long term? And then third, we get a look at our cardiometabolic health. We know that our cardiometabolic health is key to longevity. It's a big thing. It's how does our heart work? How does our lungs work? How does our oxygen consumption work within our bodies? And so knowing that omega-3s and omega-6 fats are either benefiting us or just not benefiting us is going to be key, because do we supplement with an omega-3? Do we have more fish in our diet, or do we not? And then we get down here to our weight management and body composition. So how does physical activity impact us? How does our body process carbohydrates, proteins, and fats? What do we metabolize first? What are our eating habits like? What are we predisposed to wanting to eat? How is our body going to respond to the exercise we're under? Is it more strength training? Is it more power training? Is it more endurance based? Is it more HIIT style? We can understand all these because we all know what it's like to be working extremely hard and training, but not getting the results that we want. So when we do this, it gives us that ability to really focus and be present in the areas where it's necessary. So that is something that is really, really important and really prevalent in grabbing this data. And once we have this, we can ultimately turn this into, and let me pull up the meal plan, turn this into something that is specific to you. And when we know what's specific to you, we can then go and say, okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, these are the recipes in which we should be eating from, simply because this is what is going to enhance those nutrient deficiencies and help with the metabolization of the food that we're eating. So the upregulation of those nutrients actually helps us. Always remember this, guys. Chronic hunger is a sign of chronic micronutrient deficiency. And chronic micronutrient deficiency leads to chronic weight gain. And so those are the things that we need to identify first. And that's how we can biohack or just live intelligently and make better decisions based upon the data and information that we see. The second thing on the testing side that we can really start to do is what we call a full reset of our metabolic system. And so when we do a fitness test and a fitness evaluation with our clients, we do a little VO2 max test and a resting metabolic rate. So basically it's a little mask that goes over top of our nose. And as we do a resting metabolic rate, we understand how many calories you are burning simply at rest, just by sitting in this chair all day long. What do you need just to live, just to function, just to be alive? From there, we're able to understand, okay, when you're working out, when you're running, when you're walking, when you're doing chores around the house, what energy systems are you utilizing? Is it more fat burn? Is it more carbohydrate burn? Is it more protein burn? And so we can now actually change and manipulate the body into how it is that we're burning things and using substrates for energy. And when we know that, we can start to fuel the appropriate way. So we start to see, again, in this little report here, we see your metabolic efficiency, we see your aerobic health, your respiratory fitness, your breathing and cognition. So how does your breath, do you breathe correctly? Do you breathe through your chest? Do you breathe through your stomach? We need to breathe through that diaphragm. So things that we now know about you that we can then start to establish in a more specific way. Your cardio fitness, your fat burning efficiency, muscle typing, and breathing and mobility. So once we understand this type of data and these three things from our DNA test, from our fitness test and our metabolic information, we can now create really quality change within you. So 1 is having our wearable, 2 is our testing, and 3 comes to blue light glasses. So a lot of people are like, well, why blue light glasses? Well, if you go back to the last video that we did, we talked about sleep quality and how you can get better sleeps, and knowing that for every hour of exposure to blue light, so screen time, computers, TVs, cell phones, tablets, iPads, you name it, after the sun sets, it prevents melatonin release by 30 minutes. Now that 30 minutes starts to add up over time, but we can actually start to navigate our way through this. So if you look at these, you see how I have a little reflection when I put them on, okay? These are blue light emitting glasses. Now we have 4 different types of colors. We have clear, we have yellow, okay? You see how there's a little bit more of a yellow tint to these guys? Look like something out of drag. But this is the thing that you get. You want to utilize the clear lenses during the day because they still allow about 50% of blue light in. And we need blue light during the day in order to tell our body that, hey, it's daytime. We need to be producing cortisol. We need to be operating in this energy frame. And so that's why blue light is important and it serves a purpose. But when the sun sets, we want to use a colored lens. And that colored lens is either going to be yellow, red, or orange. Now, your yellow will keep out about 75% of blue light emissions. Your amber or your orange lenses will keep out about 95%, and your red lenses will keep out about 99%. Now, obviously, you're not going to go out in orange or red lenses, so there are things that you kind of use at home, and it's going to distort the color a little bit more. That's why I chose to go with the yellow. It's still a little bit, it still keeps out a little bit more of those color emissions, but it doesn't distort things quite as much. You have a little bit more of that normal viewpoint as you're wearing them. So just something to keep in mind. But again, a really key thing to utilize in that 3-2-1 rule leading up to nighttime. Okay. Now, the 4th thing that we want to do is start to incorporate a standing desk into our lives. I know as entrepreneurs, executives, we are sitting all day long. We're sitting at our desk. We're on meetings. We're on Zoom calls. We're planning. But when we now have the ability to move our desk to a standing desk from a sitting desk, we have the ability to be more flexible in what we do. And so I pulled up a couple different options of desks here. It doesn't need to be something that's always standing or always sitting, but something that can have this transform, and that's Uplift Desk. I really love what they do. And I get no promotion for this, guys. I just love to show you guys things that work. And when we have this functionality and the ability to go from seating to standing, it not only allows us to have a better oxygen flow through our body, so thus, which we saw with our testing prior, our cognition starts to improve as well, but it also gives us the freedom to stay a little bit more focused. So we can be seated, we can be standing, and it doesn't matter in between. So this is something, again, that everybody should have some ability to do. And it doesn't even need to be that you get a standing desk. Maybe it's that you just get up and go for a walk halfway between your meeting, or right, you leave 5-minute blocks in between and you're getting up and walking. There was a study done that actually showed that people who were more active through their day, just had movement, were 95% less likely to have chronic illness and disease. And when they took a look at people who had active jobs, like construction workers or teachers or people who were actually up moving all the time versus people who just went and worked out hard for 30 minutes and then had a sedentary job, actually had a greater calorical expenditure, had a greater health, had greater metabolic health, and had a overall healthier lifestyle simply because they were moving more. And so if we can incorporate movement, not just exercise, into our day, that's when we start to really be able to hack or live intentionally throughout our day. So that's really, really key in this whole process as well, and making sure that we get those aspects in. Now, the last thing, the 5th thing, really comes down to what you see behind me, sunlight exposure. And we talked about this in this sleep video as well, why sun exposure is so important. We have in our body what's called this cortisol melatonin cycle. And first thing in the morning, our cortisol should be sky high. A way in which we can ensure that happens is the moment we wake up, the first 5 to 10 minutes, we need to get some form of sunlight exposure because we have photoreceptors on our skin and in our eyes. And what happens is as we take in that sunlight, the vitamin D, it basically tells our body, hey, the sun is up, I need to be up, and it jacks up cortisol. It says, cortisol, come on out. And we know that if cortisol is high, melatonin has to be low. So before we wake up and roll out of bed and go right to that coffee maker, let's make sure we wake up, roll out of bed, and find that sunlight. We find some form of sun exposure. And when paired with movement, just like we talked about in number 4, the standing desk, when sunlight exposure and movement is paired together, it creates a real optimal level of cortisol production. And cortisol, again, will always decrease that melatonin cycle. Now, conversely, at night, we want to see the sun set. Why? Same exact reason, is when the sun sets, it now puts out this dusk feeling, this feeling of lack of light, no more blue light. And it signals to our body, hey, I need to produce more melatonin because we're getting ready for bed. And so that is why we want to start to, at night, utilize our blue light glasses, which was number 3, so that, again, once that cortisol started to be produced, we can eliminate all the blue light from our body and from that's being emitted to us to tell ourselves, hey, no more daytime. I need to keep that melatonin high and keep operating at a high level. So just like I said, we don't want to really be hindering here on biohacking, but rather living intentionally. And if we can use these 5 things as entrepreneurs, we are going to change the way that we function. Because I've had so many people come up to me and say, hey, my business is all online. I know exactly what I'm doing, but I'm lagging behind. I am the link that is holding me back from growing and truly getting to where I need to be. What do I need to do? And so the top 5 things we need to do is get a wearable, have information, know what we're looking at, and use that metric of HRV. Number 2 is do testing on yourself. Understand your metabolic testing, understand your sleep thresholds, understand what you're deficient in from a micronutrient level. Number 3 is use some form of blue light blocker. Number 4 is get that standing desk or allow yourself to get some form of movement throughout the day. And number 5 is get that sun exposure. You use these tools, guys, you actually implement these, and you will start to notice that your energy level drives sky high, it's sustainable, and it's something that you can truly use. There's so many tools out there, and this is truly what I want to do. So if you like this video, share it, like it, comment it on it. Be sure to subscribe. Buttons down below to get more stuff like this. I'm putting these out weekly so that we can ultimately create a better world, because entrepreneurs of a service nature are serving people globally, and the more we can serve, the better we can have in a greater world. Go own it.